Hello everyone, welcome to yet another Teach Kevin Your Thing session. In today's session, I'm going to be learning all about UnoCSS with Anthony. How are you doing, Anthony?
Hello. Hey. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to a TKYT session to teach me UnoCSS. I've heard that it's the Tailwind CSS killer. So after this session, we're definitely going to find out. But before that, could you please introduce yourself? Tell us who Anthony Fu is, what you do, and what you've been doing.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for having me. So my name is Anthony Fu, and I'm a coding member of Vite and Next, and I'm also the creator of Vite, UnoCSS View Use or Slide Div. And yeah, today we're going to talk a bit about UnoCSS. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, you've written quite a lot of my favorite open source tools, and I want to thank you for that. So, what was the inspiration behind CSS? Because sort of feels like Tailwind, right? Because you have all these utility classes. Like, what's different about CSS?
Okay, so for me is that UnoCSS is never like intended to be a replacement of Tailwind or like saying Tailwind killer, but instead like you can think that Tailwind UnoCSS is a bit like more like low level. It's a bit like I call that as a like Atomic CSS engine. So what it does is like it's doing the heavy lifting to generating from your source code the usage of each utility CSS to your output CSS, and then it's just it's an engine. So like by default, it doesn't have any core utilities or any functionalities, but everything is configurable. So on top of that, we build a preset that compatible with Tailwind. So that kind of being approved that to say this engine is already powerful enough to being able to use those rules to create a Tailwind CSS compatible layer. But that also means that you can create any framework with Atomic CSS you like. You can introduce your own token. You can introduce your own conventions for your teams or like for your preference.
Interesting. So I guess what I mean is that it's a level lower than with CSS in the sense that it doesn't really come with utilities, but it's an atomic CSS engine where you could define your own tokens, utilities, and all that. So um, you said you have a preset that is compatible to Tailwind CSS. That's really interesting. So with Uno, I can build my own utility CSS framework. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
exactly.
interesting. That's cool. So yeah, I think that makes sense because if Tailwind CSS was going to be built today, you're saying you're gonna like the team could have used Uno CSS as the Atomic CSS framework, right? Underneath, then they build on top of it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of the motivation of me to build this is like I was like telling friend and I really love the way that using Atomic CSS to style components to write an app. But sometimes like Tailwind is a bit limited to the what tokens you can use. Like for example, like if you want like pending, like we have a P-1, which representing for pending for 1 unit, right? And then you have P2, P3. So that all makes sense until you say, oh, I want to have a like P15 or like I want to have a P like 2023. So then you find out that Tailwind doesn't really offer them by default. So they can have a like 12, 24, or 48, which is like binary multiple. So then you kind of find that you won't have something like on top of the convention, but you also being limited. So then you go to you can search for the Tailwind stock to see how you can configure that, and then you find okay you can have a thing, and then you need to list every single one you want to add it on top of it to say like if I have 15 and then I need to add the 15 units, and then I don't have a 16. So is that when I find that when you want to extend the current convention to a bit further, it make it a bit harder. So on the way of thinking is that why we just make it very flexible to say this is what I want as a convention and this is what I want the result. So then with UnoCSS, even though you have some preset that say tailwinds, and then you can have your own convention to say my dash something with just one line of code, and then you make the convention that's be like general available to your app.
Interesting. Yeah, I think you're actually right on that note that there's always this default set of conventional units and tokens in Tailwind. So if you want to move past that, you have to do a lot of extending. And yeah, so I believe Tailwind is very opinionated. So with UnoCSS, what I'm hearing is that there are no opinions. You could make your designs the way you want and still follow Atomic CSS. So a quick primer on Atomic CSS though, for those who don't know, what is Atomic CSS? Just like a 1 minute explainer of what it is and why it's really useful.
Okay, so when we build something that we starting to write CSS, right? We can say like a button, and then we write a few attributes inside those buttons. So then you can use the class buttons everywhere, and when you want a button. But then you find that okay, in some cases I wanted the button to be a bit larger. Sometimes I want to be the button have a different color. So then the other way is like I'm creating another class which is not reusable. Then I find okay, maybe I can have some utilities class to say this button that's red and turn a button on becomes red. But then you find that you want also I want the size. Then you have a button large, and in the end you find that in some of the utilities it's actually just one line of CSS to say like button red and then the background equal to red, and that's it. So that's being the basic of Atomic CSS. That's to say if I'm going to use such things on top of my CSS framework, why I just use the styles all the time to say I have like the background dash red, which presents making the background as red all the time. So I can use that as a tokens everywhere. And when I see the names, I know exactly what it does since it follows the conventions. I think so. That's a P1, which is like 1 unit. P2 is 2 units. That all makes sense. So that's why we have the atomic CSS, and also like on top of that, you can have a lot of different things to say. I can have a hover state, which is a hover column, and P2, which is like when you when you hover on the element, the pending will change to 2 units.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that was actually the reason I actually fell in love with Atomic CSS because it sort of emulates functional programming here, where you're piecing functions to get an output. But with this, you piece different classes instead of having like a button class or a card class that you might need to override. You just have these building blocks that you could just piece together to make what you want. So thank you for that brief primer. So I feel we could get into like you showing me stuff about Uno CSS, and if you have any demo for today, we'll definitely get into it and just see the power of Uno CSS. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah,
All right.
sure.
All right, sure. I'm sharing your screen now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
lovely
And
website by the way.
thank you.
Yeah, sure.
That's the new UnoCSS documentation we just wrote like a few days ago,
Yeah.
and it's just providing the basic to say that introduction to UnoCSS. So
So.
you see that we frame it as an instant on-demand atomic CSS engine. So the
Mhm.
first thing you see that there is like fully customizable. There is no core utilities as we mentioned, and it's be very fast. And then we have a lot of different features we can I can show you later. And here is that you can see that all of them. So we kind of like I kind of have a basic concept of the rules I just mentioned. Is that when I need a M1 to say that's for margin 1 unit, I can just write in the UnoCSS config. I can just write rules and then M1 and then the CSS in JavaScript. And this allows UnoCSS to know when I saw M-1 being used, I will generate the corresponding CSS to say that, okay, when it will scan your source code and to say, oh, there is a class m.-1, and then it will generate m1. And that happens on the compile time. So you don't need to pay any cost of in the runtime. And to make it more flexible, you see that when I have an m-1, then I only have 1 pixel, right? But then if I have a m2, I need to write another rule. But with UnoCSS, it's make it more flexible. You can have a dynamic one. So I can change the m1 like we call it as a matcher, and then turn it into a regex. So here you can see that we can like match like m dash and then the digits afterwards, and then I can provide a function to say that, okay, margin equal to the number and pixel. So then it allows you to generate anything you want. So you have like m-7.5, it will generate m-7.5, and only the one you use. So that's the basic how you define UnoCSS rules, or like the Atomic CSS rules on UnoCSS. So with that, you can have a lot of different rules together, and then you can provide it as a preset. So we can have like m dash and p dash, which like makes sense as we just talked about, and then we'll have a preset. So and then you can share your configuration to the others, to the team. So and also for that sense, we also providing a lot of different built-in presets, or like the official preset you can choose from. So here we have this kind of the preset, and you can see that. So the by default, you'll have UnoCSS one is like a superset of Tailwind. So you can still use the Tailwind CSS style, the convention, as if you are more familiar with it. But again, that you can totally build up on your own from scratch. And on top of that, we're also providing an interesting preset. It's called icons preset. So, and with this preset, if you install this preset, it allows you to use any icons from like, I don't know, like 1 million or I don't know, something in the open source from different collections like material design icons or like hero icons and anything you want. And you can just in a class, just in one line of class, which you just need to know the name of each icons, and then you can have it. And also you can add colors to it. Also, you can have a different style to it to say that, okay, have a hover variant to say, and then I hover on the icons, it changes to another icon. And again, here is that there is a button like the moon, and I click it, it changes to a sun. So that all happens in CSS without any JavaScript. So that's one feature to show that what UnoCSS is capable of it. And also we have an Attributify mode. So you can have to say when I write Tailwind CSS, I need to write all the things in the class attributes. And when it gets long, it's really hard to read. I don't know what is going on here, right? So with Attributify mode, you are being able to extract the common parts to say I have a background blue 400 and I have a background 500 and I have a background, and then here I can write the colors directly inside it. So we can kind of extracting common prefix of each utilities and then put it on top of the asset attributes. And this preset, it actually enables these features for any preset you have. So if you have any conventions that it's not necessary to say that you align with Tailwind's preference, but if you have any kind your custom, if you have any custom rules, it can also work as long as it's just replace this equal sign with dash in your rules. So that's how it works. And then we have a typography and web fonts. It will you can define web fonts, and it will just install the Google fonts or like different providers if you want, and then you can directly use that to say that font sense and the robot, and then you can like grab it'll just register the Google fonts. You can just paste the names here, and everything will just work automatically. And like again, that's we have a lot of things, and Tagify is allows you to write the atomic CSS as a attribute, which is a bit weird, but this is just showing what we can do. I probably not recommend to do it. I will not recommend you to do it, but it's just a interesting demonstration.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is how you can do it with it, and also providing interactive documentation to say, okay, I want to have a text red. You can search for it. You can search like text red 1, 2. You can see different color of it, different how it's being generated, and also like to say that I have a pending, which I don't know, I type a random number. It will also generate for you, so you can see how it works. And this is like following the Tailwind convention, which is like a bit different as what you expected. But then you can have a lot of things, and you can have to search for the colors. This is all the colors available, and you can search for dots, and also like say margin. And then you can search for margin, and you see that how many rules is using these margins properties in your CSS. And yeah, this is like okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a bit slow, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot really. The one that really caught my attention is Attributify, where you could namespace the classes by the attributes, and I feel it really makes it a little bit more readable, especially when you have very long class lists. That makes a lot of sense. And the Tagify is just bonkers really, because it's you have all these,
Yeah.
should I say, custom elements. What's driving those tags under the hood?
Sorry.
Like, what's are you building those tag with? Is it like custom elements, or how do you run that?
Uh, okay. It will
Mhm.
just generate the corresponding rules for it, but it doesn't handle any logic.
Oh.
But then it can be a bit easier for you to say that okay, I have a flex element, and then you like by default dev is not a flex, right? But sometimes I would just prefer that dev to be flex all the times. It's
Mm-hmm.
easier to lay out, and then
Yeah.
you can actually use the flex as the element.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense. So you probably like almost into components UI land, where you could, like something like Chakra UI that give you all these um, elements. You'll have something like that with the Tagify on. So you could still pass in class, right? So those elements. Oh
Yes,
wow.
yes, you can still pass in class. Yes.
Oh, that's really some really neat stuff. That makes sense. Thank you. And you say all these are done in compile time, not build time? Not
Yes,
runtime.
it's all compile time.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, cool, perfect. Thank you. Yeah. So, can we build something at this time? It's like something trivial, but let's see how you'd use it under the like the DX of it
Okay.
all. Mm-hmm.
Sure, sure. Yeah. So here I prepared a minimum Vite project starter, like right from the create Vite repo is just nothing. You see, this is that's how it works. And then I will just install. I'll just install UnoCSS. So here, and I will just let's like pm install and UnoCSS. So then you go here and to import UnoCSS from UnoCSS-Vite. Since UnoCSS has different integrations for each framework, and for Vite is under a submodule. So, and then you put it here as a plugin, and then you need to create a UnoCSS config, uno.config.ts, and then you can import like define config uh, from Uno, and then you can have a like default. And by default it has a preset as the preset Uno enabled, but you can disable it. So maybe that try to write some like the custom rule to say. So you see that I'm going to have a like text red, which color is red, and then I go to my main app. I will import Uno.css, which is the virtual modules that injecting all the CSS into. So I will just start the dev server and I'll open it. Okay. So how can
Yeah.
I will just zoom it up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can add it as a dev, right? And then I can have a class, the text red, and then hello. And then you see the text becomes red. And of course, you can make a bit like counterintuitive to say, okay, I want it to be blue. It will be
Yeah.
blue. Which this is like the Foley one. You customize. You can have a my, right? Like my red, which is blue, and you can change to here. My red is still blue. So you see that this basically happens in no times, and this is like the rule. You can write a lot. You can write a lot of them, and to say that we can have a my prefix as a regex, and then we can have a capture anything, and then you can have a color to say, need to pass a function, and the function it will returns as a match result to say x, like result. When you hover it, you see that is a regex matching array, and then you can return the object, and the color would be the first group of the regex. So here, then you can have say my green, which will just forward the green token to the thing, and then you can have anything. You can have like to say, okay, I'll just like this, and you can see this is colors become like this. So this is like just a very simple convention we can do, and of course you can do it better or like do it more straightly as you want, more straightly, more freely. You can. Since this is actually a full function, right? So
Yeah.
we could see this is a. So we can say, okay, if the result equal to say blue, I will return it as red. So you can do any logic here, and then you can say that, okay, if my blue, it will become red.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did I go too fast?
No, it's really, really convenient. I just see that it just lets you do quite a lot, and that makes sense.
Okay, so this is the custom rule part, right? So and we'll go to the default preset to make it easier, so you can follow the Tailwind convention. Of course, we can have a preset called preset wind, which is a common utilities from Tailwind CSS and Windy CSS, and they also serve the like similar feature. And I'll just keep my red. It's fine. So and you see that like my red is still here, but then I can change to like mono, right? It's text mono. No, it's font mono. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a mono font, and yeah, I think I actually need to restart my extension since UnoCSS is also providing a VS Code extension that you hover it, you see how each token is being generated. You see my blue is generating red, and it's actually binding to the engine. So whenever you change your code to say as I just say, I'll just check if it is blue, I will just return red. But you can have anything here, and like this, it will generating this one, and also you have a color here, and it will underline it to say this is being matched, is being found by UnoCSS. So
Nice.
and this is how you do it, and basically you have all the things border one, right, and border red. This is from border red. This is from Tailwind, which you're already familiar with it, I guess so. And yeah, did anything wrong? Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about it. So if you're going to use Tailwinds, you need to also have the Tailwinds reset, or in Tailwind we call preflight. So it's a reset and Tailwind. I think so. Okay, I think I need to install that package.
Yeah, I think so too.
Or for, and that is just for like npm install. It's ls. And then restart the server. You can see this is you have the border red, and of course you can have a pending for like rounded, right? And then you can have a like we can have a merge too, which you look like this. So so that's starting to see that's how different each like different process preset works. Is that okay for you?
Yeah, that
Okay,
makes a lot of
so you
sense.
can have preset icons. Maybe that's starting with a preset Attributify. So and I just added to Attributify like this. And now do you think maybe I can just grab it to make it easier to read?
Mhm.
So um, wait a minute. Let me just hang it. Okay. So on the right is our preview of the app. And here you see that we already have like border one and border red, right? So we
Yeah.
can extract them. I can just remove them here. And then I will have a border equal to one and red like this. Do you see it's still working? If you
Yeah.
have green, if you have two, it'll be like more wider. So here we can have a font, say mono, and maybe bold. You see, and of course you can have accessory. So and you can starting to extracting a lot of things. You can completely remove the class. It's fine, and you can have a p equal to we say okay for y I need to have a like 10, for x I need to have a 5 something. So you can see the different part of
That's really neat. I like it.
it. Okay, that
Sure.
makes sense to you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's super neat and amazing. I like it.
Okay, thank you. And of course, you can have a bit like variance here. So you can have a hover to say hover red, and when I hover it, I when I hover it, it becomes red. You see, this is
Yeah.
just how it works. And also, you can also have a hover here to have a background yellow. I think this should be dash, and then you can hover it, it becomes background like this, and you can put a lot of things here as well if you prefer. And then let's go maybe let's do it, clean up. So let's go preset icons. So for preset icons, what you're going to use is like all the icons from open source. I think each has a different license, but you can like pick from like in I made also a website called icons.js.org. You can search for all the icons you prefer, and to say that maybe remix icons, and I can search for it. I can search for account, it will find it, and here I can choose a different convention I want. And for UnoCSS, it's starting with I dash and then the icon name, the collection name and the icon name. So if I want to use this icon, for example, so I can copy the token, and I can have a class. Actually, yeah, I can have a class, but actually with the Attributify, I don't need to have a class anymore. But you see this, the icons is not here because you need to install the icon set by yourself. So first you can go with, I think you can actually see, no, okay. So if you go to the docs, it will tell you how to install it. But here I will just say Iconify JSON, and then RI, which representing the collection. So I will install it. Okay, and then I will restart the server. So now you can see here you have an icon. So I probably shouldn't put it here. So if I put it here, so it will adding a, I don't know, I cannot close it. Okay. Then you can have the icon here. So if you want to resize it, you can have a text for XL to say, and then text red, it can be red. So that's the a super convenient thing to me, I think, is that you are able to use any icons you want here.
Yeah, that's really convenient, and the fact that you can use it as an attribute even, it's super nice.
Oh yeah, I didn't notice I actually use the Attributify here. Is that I don't write a class.
Yeah.
Because the Attributify also like supporting without the values, you can directly write it as attributes.
Cool. That's super fun. This is great stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Do you have anything more to show me? Any cool UnoCSS stuff?
Okay, and I guess we have a few more.
Okay.
So I think we have like variant group to say this is a transformer, this is not preset. So you put, yeah, I think maybe before I introduce that, maybe we can do a bit like interesting, like let's say we build a button. Okay. So if I want to start, if I want to build a button here, to say, and lost. So here I have a button here, right? So I can say that subscribe. I'm not good at typing. Okay, remember to subscribe Kevin channel, and then if I want to style it to say, maybe I have a border, right? Let's go class. Okay, so I have a border and round it, and maybe I have a pending like 4 pending y as 1. I'll just move it out so it doesn't be inferred by the style. So maybe I have a margin 1 to have in some space, and let's see. This is really hard to when it goes very long. And maybe let's say the background can be green. No. What's your favorite color actually?
Yeah, green works really, but my favorite color is black. So what green is okay.
Okay, let's go black. Okay, let's have a black button here. So for the border, we can have say gray. Yeah, and then we can dash it to be like the opposite, the opacity. Like 50 is like 50% of the opacity you can see here is generating here. So you can have like 75, and maybe like that. So also like for the text, you can also have a gray, or maybe white is also do white for 50. So, and then you can have a hover state, right? And for the button, it should be hover, and for background, I can have a white, they're like very light. So you can have a button here. So let's say, okay, we build a button here. So when I want to like duplicate this button, right? So I will just copy paste, and I will say also like it, right? We will have a two button, but you see that we kind of duplicating all the classes, and if I want to change it, I need to modify both places. So that's kind of being a common questions to use Atomic CSS, or like this is sometimes a bit annoying. You should change it to say, okay, this is then the two buttons actually not going to have the same style. You have you're kind of doing some inconsistency. So here to do something like this, we can UnoCSS is providing built-in features called shortcuts. So I will just copy this all the classes I had, and I will put it here to say shortcuts. And then again, just like the rules, I can have like my, actually I don't need to, I can have an object and say my button. And then I will just paste all the classes here. So then you can like, I'll just remove it. Oh, it's called my button. And then it works. And it was generating all the styles we just list and also the Harvard states in one class.
Oh, interesting. Can you show me the class
That makes
again?
sense to you?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Let's see the class again, the buying button class.
See
Wow.
what?
Cool. Like the class, my button. That's nice.
And also like here, you see this, you kind of being like having a group of utilities putting in one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And interesting part is that this also can be dynamic. To say, if I want to style my buttons, I actually use grids in different colors, right? So I will just put this in the format that's more uh, more aligned to the rules. It also works, but then I can change it to be radix, and I will just put it here, put it here. So again, I was doing like this, right? And then again, I have a function to generating those things. And here I can have I can just destruct it and then have a color here. So in the sense is that I am able to replace this gray as a dynamic part. And I will just do it. And here, see that this is like how I wanted to say that, okay, this is all the class I use in utilities can be dynamic. And then I have my button dash something. So here you can see my buttons gray. It will become gray, and red, it becomes red. You can have anything you want. And this is just all happens on the compile time.
Wow. That's amazing. Really. So I
Thank
guess
you.
yeah, the UnoCSS file is not on disk, right? Because you mentioned it's a virtual CSS file.
Yes. It
Oh,
will be replaced by the plugins as it will find the usage of it, and it will replace in the build times as the full generated CSS.
cool. That's amazing. Yeah, I feel that so the the kind of way I say it, so you have a Tailwind CSS compatible preset, right? So that means
Yes.
for those using Tailwind CSS, this will be like the advantage of you being able to define your own tokens, and
Yes.
yeah, that's so you could do that and also have the sweet stuff like the Attributify and Tagify and a ton of other stuff, especially the shortcuts. I think we do have that in Tailwind CSS, right? So we'll be
Yeah,
able to,
basically you
yeah.
can have a
Mm-hmm.
directive to say we have a style here,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
like my button here, like it will look like
That
this.
apply, right? Yeah,
Yes.
cool.
And Windows says we also support it. So like you have transform directive and you put it
Mm.
in here like transformers, transform directive, and then you have that feature exactly the same as it. So this is complete opt-in. So you can choose whatever you want, and then you can like compose it as the way you like it.
Interesting. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, for sure. I feel we've covered quite a ton, and from this point on, it's just to like the sky is your limit because you could just check out the docs and also have a fair understanding of the place of UnoCSS. That's totally great. Thank you so much,
Thank
Anthony.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So, if someone is watching this, do you have like a final word or a plug that you want to like anyone to check out or anything concerning what we just talked about?
Okay. Yeah. And it's a really great section. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So, like, any last words for those watching?
No, maybe you can just check out the site to see if you like this one or
Mhm.
not.
Eh,
And if you have anything like you can tell me or tell Kevin, and we can see that's how these things could be like how it works to your workflows
mhm.
or like anything you kind of think that's missing or whatever things you want, maybe a good fit. And yeah, just to mention, we also have a bunch of community presets. We're providing like totally different approach of doing things. And if you're interested, you should definitely check out. And if you ever create any like UnoCSS preset, feel free to send a pull request to adding to this list and to share with the others. And
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, for sure. So if I want to reach you after the session, where can I do that? Like Twitter, right?
Uh, yeah, you can find me on my website ntfu.me, which providing all the links to my social medias or
Mm.
GitHub. My GitHub handle will be ntfu, and my Twitter is mtfu7. And that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much for your time, Anthony. And yeah,
Thank you.
of course.